Absolutely shocking news out of New York. The governor is going to convene a group to determine if they can remove Mayor Eric Adams over his cooperation with Donald Trump. Holy crap. I'm in such a good mood, you guys. I did a Culture War episode with Myron Gaines, and he said, never cry, men shouldn't cry, but I am so close to crying tears of joy because the Democrats, they just keep making mistakes. And as the saying goes, never interrupt your enemy. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. When they're making mistakes. Kathy Hochul wants to remove Eric Adams. Well, let me give you the real quick version of the story before we get into the severity and of how extreme this news is. It's just, so 2022, Eric Adams basically says to the Biden administration, y'all ain't doing right by New York. We can't handle illegal immigrants. Biden basically says, like, we will destroy you. A couple of years later, after Eric Adams basically says we're rejecting illegal immigrants, the Biden administration indicts him on charges that don't quite make a lot of sense. Trump gets into office and then says, work with us, work with ICE, we'll make these charges go away. Eric Adams says, done. Does a sit-down interview with Tom Homan. Allows ICE to operate in Rikers. Kathy Hochul says, we will destroy you. Now, the Democrat narrative is that Eric Adams is corrupt and worked a corrupt deal with Trump to get away from these criminal charges. But, yo, I got the evidence for you. We're going to break down this news. And I'm going to tell you, it genuinely does seem that if you follow the timeline of events, Eric Adams broke from the Biden administration's plans. They retaliated against him. He began working with Donald Trump. Trump cut him a deal, and now Democrats want revenge. This is a coup in New York. The people of New York City voted for a cop. That's Eric Adams. Now, I'm not a big fan. He's still a Democrat. When will they learn their lesson? But the people of New York are largely fed up with illegal immigration, and Eric Adams knew that. And so he said, that's the route we're going to take. The Democrats want mass illegal immigration, and they are not yet done fighting. So for this, we have the makings of a state-level coup. Now, you don't need to hear it from me for the 800th time, but I'm going to say it for those that don't know the context. The charges brought against Donald Trump in New York, to anybody who pays attention and anybody who read the law and read the rules, it's fake. But there are people out there who are insane, and there's nothing you can do about it. So many people voted for Donald Trump because we began to wake up to what was going on. And in New York, they filed charges against Donald Trump, claiming that that his misdemeanor falsification of business records had been upgraded to a felony because of an underlying crime. The unfortunate issue is there was no underlying crime. They've never proven an underlying crime. Trump was never charged with any underlying crime. They literally charged Trump with misdemeanors, upgraded them illegally to felonies, and then convicted him on those felonies. It's fake. We know that New York has gone rogue. To be fair, so is California. Now, the scary thing is when a mayor gets elected and the people of New York are saying we've had enough. New York City basically controls the state. I know that upstate New York, you got Republican voters. You got people who live in the wilderness and like to hunt and own chickens. But New York City is the power structure of New York State. Same is true for Illinois. Well, when the people begin to change their minds and say enough, and they vote for a man who used to be a cop, and they want him to deport and work with Trump on getting rid of illegal immigrants, the corrupt elements of the fascistic Democrat state move in to crush him. This story is nuts. The other day, when we heard this news break, that the governor was going to try to remove a duly elected mayor with I suppose they're trying to remove him without any cause. I mean, that's shocking, to say the least. But let's break this one down, baby. This one's crazy. Dare I say it, my friends? Perhaps I shouldn't. But I will ask you this question. You have an election where large amounts of people, if not around half of the voting country, claim that it was stolen. Then you get a political party that shuts the country down and forces people to get medicated. Then you have mass rioting. I should say you had mass rioting to begin with. I got to say, take the time travel test, as I often claim. And you look at everything that's happening and the escalations, and oh boy, if we get to a point where states go rogue to this degree, we are looking at Elizabeth Warren saying, I believe it was Warren, I could be wrong. She said that Elon should face jail time. Tom Homan saying what AOC is doing in impeding law enforcement could be a crime. Trump and Elon both saying that the CBS News interfering in the election by putting out a false interview. They actually took sound bites from Kamala Harris on the election and changed their answers. They're saying CBS deserves jail time for this or the suspension of their license. The escalation has not stopped. And the fact that we are now at a point where Trump has an ally in the mayor of our most populous city, and the governor says they will shut this down. I mean, the fact they tried putting Eric Adams in prison is crazy. But hey, you want to play, you want to be a Democrat, that's what you get. Trump seems to be cleaning things up. But let me just add one final cherry on top. Call it whatever you want. Call it escalation, call it chaos, and then Donald Trump tweets, "A man who saves his country breaks no law." Okay. Well, I suppose if we're going the route of the Roman Republic and we're about to turn into the empire, then at least we'll get 200 years of prosperity before everything falls apart and burns to the ground. I'm just saying, man, the escalation hasn't stopped. It's only been exacerbated. Now, we can say this over and over again. I hope things calm down. I hope that this is where it stops. Maybe. Trump's Doge, Elon's Doge is I call it Trump's march to the sea on the deep state. If you're unfamiliar with Sherman's March to the Sea, he basically murdered people and burned buildings down and razed farmland. The goal of scorched earth military tactics is to make sure your enemy cannot wage war. Now, there's gentlemanly warfare, where we say we will take out. You know what it is? You know what's really funny? Gentlemanly warfare is very much the idea of, why don't you just shoot the gun out of his hand? You know, when there's like a cop and the cop is trying to subdue like a violent criminal, and, well, you don't. You have to stop them from being able to kill others. It's unfortunate. We don't want it to happen. I say it all the time, but that's what cops have to do. When we wage war, we typically try to disable their military apparatus. In a march to the sea, like we saw with Sherman, he says, destroy their source of food and they can't eat. Then they will not fight. And that's a tactic more commonly used today. Donald Trump's gutting of USAID, going after the Treasury Department, going after the IRS with Elon Musk as an advisor, and removing their ability to wage administrative war is his march to the sea. Maybe that will shut them down. But in the meantime, they're not stopping. This story is bonkers. Let's break it down. Before we get started, my friends, head over to timcastpremium.com and become a Rumble Premium member. Use promo code TIM10 to sign up, and you'll get access to our uncensored call-in show Monday through Thursday, Timcast IRL, as well as our Green Room podcast. The Green Room show, it's literally what the Green Room is. When guests come here to the Timcast IRL studios, we're usually hanging out because call time's a little early. And at some point, I was like, guys, we should just film this because it's basically introductory podcast. Last night, Chad Hall of Snake Farm Skateboards sat down with Chuck and Filibonte and discussed active duty combat and listening to All That Remains in wartime. He's a big fan of Phil and All That Remains. And they had a great conversation about human growth hormone, getting fit, guns, military operations, and some of it gets a little unfamily friendly in discussing what our brave men and women do overseas, if you catch my drift. We got a bunch of episodes. The Roman Nation episode, which, of course, Roman Nation was born of the Timcast Discord server. Big viral hit, 124,000 views. So check that out. And, of course, go to castbrew.com. And here you go. Go to castbrew.com and pick up some Cast Brew coffee to support the show directly. We've got the Phil's Holiday Blend, if you like Phil Labonte dressed like Santa Claus while singing. We got Alex Stein's Primetime Grind. And, of course, everyone's favorite, Ian's Graphene Dream. Guys, you're making Ian rich. You know, he's selling coffee like hotcakes. Apparently hotcakes sell. Let's jump into the story, though, my friends. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Sharing is caring, and it really does help. If everybody who was watching right now took the URL and posted it on social media, we'd be the biggest show in the world. Admittedly, I really do want to give a special thanks to all of you for watching because the morning show numbers have been tremendous. You know, I'd been doing a morning live stream from the time of the RNC up until a few months ago, but it was from 10 to noon, a 2-hour show. Now we're doing a 1-hour show. And then from that 2-hour show, taking the clips and re-uploading them, that was a bad idea. What we're doing now, what I'm doing now is a 1-hour stream at 10, followed by 4 individual segments. And this has been tremendous. The numbers have been fantastic. Growth has been tremendous. And so I want to give you guys a thank you for watching the new format. You know, normally I would just do the 10 a.m. recorded. Now we're doing a full hour. You guys can super chat. And Of course, we're on Rumble as well. Let's jump into the news from NPR. NY Governor Hochul signals she may move to force NYC Mayor Eric Adams from office. This is nuts. Hochul acknowledged in a statement that ousting Adams, a fellow Democrat, would be a serious step, but said alleged conduct at City Hall that has been reported over the past 2 weeks is troubling and cannot be ignored. Hochul said she plans to meet with key leaders in Manhattan on Tuesday before issuing a decision. This development comes after controversy surrounding Adams deepened. The controversy surrounding Adams deepened on Monday as 4 of his top aides and deputy mayors announced they're resigning. Guys, this is administrative warfare. Eric Weinstein called it an administrative civil war. Look, I think that's silly because administrative conflict is a precursor to what we can expect. Take a look at how things escalated in the OG Civil War. I know. You can't, you normally on Timcast IRL, they say, Tim said Civil War, quick, take a drink. But you can't now because it's 10 a.m. I got you. Anyway, let's lay this out. Of course, there was administrative conflict in the states before the Civil War. With Bleeding Kansas, there was constant administrative crisis. In fact, when the election for Lincoln happened, southern states, the Republican Party didn't bother issuing any of their ballots in southern states because they didn't think anybody would vote for Abraham Lincoln, who wanted to suspend the expansion of slavery. Yeah. And then, of course, you had one guy in Congress mercilessly beat another guy. Yet that was escalating administrative conflict. You had the arrest of the Maryland legislature during the Civil War, the suspension of habeas corpus. Administrative tactics and conflict plays a massive role in civil wars. Now, I'm not saying we definitively get to that point. I believe we're going to have What If Alt History back on IRL, I think this week maybe, and we can get an update on what do you think's going to happen, considering I don't think we're inching towards 1,000 deaths by April. That's only 2 months away. That being said, the escalation hasn't ceased. Eric Adams, I got to break this story for you down so you can really understand what's going on. But simply put, when the mayor of New York told the Biden administration he was not going to abide by the mass illegal immigration, they levied charges against him, which made no sense. And I've got the articles and the timeline to show. You can argue as a Democrat, he was corrupt and see, here's what he did. And I'm like, if you look at the actual timeline, you can see that he broke with the Biden administration and they complained for a while and then 2 years later brought charges. It doesn't seem like the charges were legitimate. It seems like the moment he said, Biden, I ain't doing this, they said, then we're going to burn you to the ground. Here's the story. They say the departures were triggered by the U.S. DOJ's controversial decision to drop corruption charges against Adams. So let me break that down for you in a second. Critics say the DOJ shelved its criminal corruption and bribery case against Adams after he agreed to collaborate with Trump's immigration crackdown. Now, first of all, what's wrong with that, even if that was on the surface true? Trump goes to an elected leader who was accused, not convicted, and he says, we need law enforcement action. We are going to cut a deal with you and drop these charges, and you are going to give us access. We do that with criminals all the time. How many rapists, murderers, and drug dealers have gone free because they've ratted out a worse criminal? That is the structure of our justice system, and a lot of us don't like it. In fact, it's the premise of the film Law Abiding Citizen, where Gerard Butler's family, their lives are taken from them, and then these criminals who perpetrated it get a sweetheart deal because they rat out someone else, and he's like, I ain't playing that game. All the time, prosecutors will go to one of the most vile criminals and they'll say, we'll give you immunity from everything you've done if you can help us stop your boss or something like that. So when Trump goes to Eric Adams and says, you were paying someone illicitly, we'll make that go away if you give us these things. And he says, okay, what is happening now is Donald Trump's government is not breaking the law and enforcing the law. You have an inverse scenario. Kathy Hochul and the New York Democratic government are actively breaking the law, impeding, encouraging, and inducing illegal immigration. Trump has just flipped an alleged criminal by saying, you're going to work for us now. Law enforcement. Eric Adams says, okay, so the criminal element of the Democratic Party then says, we're going to remove this guy by force if we have to. That is insane. Adams faced growing calls from a number of New York State's Democratic leaders to resign. First, Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer, Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services Ann Williams Esam, Deputy Mayor for Operations Mira Joshi, and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Chauncey Parker announced their departures. In a joint statement, three of the officials pointed to the extraordinary events that have rocked Adams' administration in recent weeks. To stay faithful to the oaths we swore to New Yorkers, we have come to the difficult decision to step down from our roles. In a separate statement, Parker said, working for Adams has been an honor, adding that he is confident that the administration will continue in our mission to deliver for the people of this city. All right. The question first arises, can the governor actually do this? Oh, yeah. The governor can remove the mayor of New York for 30 days, pending charges, which they would then be allowed to remove him. That's the charter of New York City. Let me break down what's going on here. This right here is from codelibrary.am legal. This is the New York City Charter, Section 9, removal of mayor. The mayor may be removed from office by the governor. I wonder if I can make this bigger. Okay, we can. All right, that's good. The mayor may be removed from office by the governor upon charges and after service upon him a copy of the charges and an opportunity to be heard in his defense. Pending the preparation and disposition of the charges, the governor may suspend the mayor for a period not exceeding 30 days. Let me tell you why that's so absolutely insane. This means the governor can charge Eric Adams with literally anything. It says upon charges. That's it. How about jaywalking? Doesn't specify. Now, would we actually tolerate? You were jaywalking, so you're not mayor anymore. Probably not. But they're going to go after him on some trumped up BS to remove him because he does not need to be convicted. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The New York mayor, working with the president to enforce the law, can be removed from the governor for any charge, without conviction. Now, don't get me wrong. An opportunity to be heard in his defense doesn't mean actually succeeding in that defense or otherwise. It literally means they can say, we charged you with this. Tell us your defense. And then he says, that's not true. I didn't do any of it. We heard you. Get out. You're done. Succession. In case of the suspension of the mayor from office, the mayor's temporary inability to discharge the powers and duties in the office of mayor by reason of sickness or otherwise, or the mayor's absence from the city, the powers and duties of the office of mayor shall devolve upon the public advocate or the comptroller in that order of succession until the suspension, inability, or absence shall cease. While also acting temporarily as mayor, neither the public advocate nor the comptroller shall exercise any power of appointment to or removal from office of any power lawfully delegated by the mayor, blah, blah, blah. Get the point. They have all the people resign. They then remove Eric Adams, and then they can put in the next person in line, effectively controlling what is going on. NBC News reported Hochul to discuss path forward as Eric Adams' deputies resign amid mayor's agreement to work with Trump. At least they lay it out for you. The mayor's agreement. I'm surprised NBC framed it this way. I'd have thought that they could have headlined it with Hochul to discuss path forward after Eric Adams cuts corrupt deal to drop charges with evil Donald Trump or something like that. Yeah, no, he agreed to work with Trump. They say the resignations came after the mayor agreed to give ICE access to New York Rikers Island, and the Justice Department moved to dismiss criminal charges against him. My understanding, my friends, is that ICE used to have access to Rikers. I mean, why wouldn't they? There's an office. Apparently, there's an office there. It's very strange. You have criminals who are here illegally. They should be deported. We sat down with Ro Khanna a few weeks ago, and he said that he opposed the Lake and Riley Act because it would allow the deportation of illegal immigrants when they weren't even convicted of a crime, just being arrested. I'm like, and? He's like, well, they're not even convicted of a crime. Why are they being deported? And I'm like, because they're here illegally? Like, that was the crime? That's the penalty for being here illegally is we send you home? Yo, it's wild that in the minds of Democrats, a criminal, they're here illegally, they're criminals, could be accused of breaking the law and be like, well, we know they're not supposed to be here. We could just send them home. That is the penalty, deportation. Or we can spend money on a trial, convict them or otherwise, and then deport them. Huh? Just send them home. Why are we spending money on a trial? Look, you committed a crime. Bye. You weren't supposed to be here in the first place. Let's figure out where all this begins. Take a look at this. February 16th. Raskin says DOJ made deeply corrupt bargain in move to drop charges against New York City mayor. A corrupt bargain, he says. Sure, coming from Raskin, it's probably the opposite of corruption because that guy's corrupt. He said that the DOJ made a deeply corrupt bargain. This is an outrageous violation of the rules of prosecutors and an offense against due process, and a very dangerous first move for the DOJ to be making under the Trump people. He said on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. Of course, I believe Margaret Brennan was the woman who said that free speech caused the Holocaust. I ain't kidding. Last week, Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove sent a memo that instructed prosecutors in Manhattan to abandon the indictment that charged Adams with bribery, conspiracy, and campaign finance violations, which he denied. Bove justified the decision by saying the case has unduly restricted Mayor Adams' ability to devote full attention and resources to the illegal immigration and violent crime. I want to just make sure this is understood by Jamie Raskin. The Justice Department, state and local law enforcement often, routinely cut deals with accused criminals, granting immunity in exchange for action against other criminals. The DOJ saying to Eric Adams, we will drop the charges if you assist in the apprehension of other criminals, is so mundane and routine, it is laughably absurd that Raskin would call anything having to do with that corrupt. Now, I guess if we want to indict the entirety of our legal system and say never again should law enforcement cut deals with criminals, fine, if that's the point you're making. Here we go. We got Voice of America. That's the American propaganda outlet operating outside the country, which can now be viewed inside the country, thanks to the Smith Modernization Act. New York City mayor to allow ICE agents at Rikers jail. This is where they really lost it. It's not where it began. This is where Democrats began to lose it. So some context as to what is going to be happening. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he will allow federal immigration officials to operate at the city's Rikers Island jail following a meeting Thursday with President Donald Trump's border czar. Adams said he will issue an executive order reestablishing U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement presence. See, that's what I said. Reestablishing. They used to be there. One of the nation's largest and most notorious lockups, as had been the case under prior administrations. Let me stress this. New York often, routine, ICE operated at Rikers. If an illegal immigrant was brought in, they say, we're sending you home, buddy. Think about how lucky you are, how lucky these illegal immigrants are. They're here illegally. They break the law. Instead of getting locked in a box for years, they go home. That's it. That's crazy. How many American criminals? Imagine this. Imagine you're an American and you rob a bank or whatever, and they go, we can send you to Honduras or you can go to prison. I'm pretty sure 100% would choose to go to Honduras. 100%. So the fact that ICE is allowing these criminals to just go home seems like it's pretty good for the criminals, to be honest. Though we don't want to pay for their housing, and we shouldn't. The Democrat said ICE agents would be focused on assisting the Corrections Department Intelligence Bureau in criminal investigations, particularly those focused on violent crimes and gangs, violent criminals and gangs. As I have always said, immigrants have been crucial in building our city and will continue to be a key to our future and success, but we must fix our long broken immigration system. That is why I have been clear that I want to work with the new federal administration, not war with them, to find common ground and make better the lives of New Yorkers. Opponents dismissed the move as needless concession and legally dubious. Huh? They used to do this all the time. Guys, the Democrats are revolutionaries. They want to fundamentally alter the structure of this government, as evidenced by everything they have done. Wokeness is a revolution. This country has not been woke. Like, the weird race-based stuff is over, and they're trying to bring it back. They are reactionary. And reactionary means they want to return the country to what it once was. They want to fundamentally alter it, bring back racial segregation, and reverse our immigration policy back to what, the 1800s? ICE's presence on Rikers serves no legitimate purpose and opens the door to unlawful collusion between local law enforcement and federal immigration officials in violation of our city's well-established sanctuary protections. And there it is. Sanctuary protections are criminal. That actually violates the law. I think that Trump's DOJ needs to arrest. Look, Pam Bondi, she announced charges against New York, but that amounts to a lawsuit. Dude, arrest them. Aiding and abetting or encouraging and inducing illegal immigration. It's all illegal. Think about where we are, my friends. And that is deeply disconcerting, to say the least. If we sit back and say, it is a crime and has been a crime to encourage, induce, aid, and abet illegal immigration. Always been illegal? Well, not always, but the law was passed. It's codified. If we do nothing, we tell Democrats and illegal immigrants there is no repercussion for breaking this law. Thus, why does the law even exist? The alternative would be we have to start arresting these people like Ocasio-Cortez. Now, I'm not saying that Ocasio-Cortez should go to prison for 20 years. I think she should get a fine, slap on the wrist, first time offense, a couple $100, don't do it again. If there is no enforcement against the actions taken by corrupt rogue state politicians, literally breaking the law, violating the Constitution, they're going to keep doing it. We have to have that enforcement apparatus. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, argued that having an ICE presence at local jails is crucial to removing violent criminals who have entered the country illegally. For the naysayers, the city council who wants nothing to do with ICE, they need to understand, if we arrest the bad guy at Rikers Island, then the alien's safe, the officer's safe, the community is safe, he said in an interview with Newsmax. Homan met with Adams at a federal office building in Manhattan as the Republican administration pushes for more help detaining and deporting people accused of crimes. ICE has long had a contentious relationship with New York, which has rules and laws limiting police cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Immigration officials, for example, aren't able to request that city jails hold people wanted for civil immigration law violations past when they would ordinarily be released from custody under city policy, because the city is aiding and abetting and breaking the law. New York City has also passed measures that curtail ICE's access to public schools and other city properties. Adams, who faces a Democratic primary in June, has said he favors loosening these so-called sanctuary policies, but he doesn't have the broad power to do so as mayor. Adams said he talked with Homan about ways to embed more New York police detectives into federal task forces, focus on violent gangs and criminal activity, as well as allowing ICE agents to participate in regular meetings with law enforcement agencies in the city. We walked away with some real tangible things we can do together, and I'm looking forward to aligning with him and other federal partners to remove dangerous people from our streets, he said in a radio show interview after the meeting. The New York Times highlighting 4 top officials resign over Adams' cooperation with Trump. This we did cover in the initial NPR story, but we have the image of the 4 deputy mayors who have all resigned. Why? They don't want to go to jail. Do you want to go up against the machine? The governor is coming for you. How much you want to bet the governor went to them and said, you're all out. Anyone working with Adams is done. And they said, we're so sorry. Please don't hurt us. And they went running. Let's go back in time. Let's break down what the Biden administration was doing and the criminal element at play. From Reuters. New York Mayor Adams faces criminal indictment, vows to fight charges. This story, of course, from September 26, 2024. Let's understand what these charges really were. They say Eric Adams said on Wednesday, this is the 25th, he expected to be charged with federal crimes and declared he was innocent after the New York Times reported he had already been indicted following a long-running federal corruption investigation. Long-running. Well, certainly that would mean the man is, there's something actually there that warrants the investigation. Or was there something else? Adams, a Democrat who had become the first of the city's 110 mayors to be criminally charged while in office, said in a video statement that if the charges were filed, they would be entirely false based on lies. If I'm charged, I know I'm innocent. I will request an immediate trial so New Yorkers can hear the truth. Defying calls from Democratic politicians for him to resign, he said, you elected me to lead the city, and lead I will. The indictment was likely to be unsealed on Thursday, when Adams may appear in court, the Times reported. In the meantime, the exact charges remain uncertain. It also remained unclear whether Adams would be arrested or voluntarily surrender. Other media later reported that a federal grand jury had indicted Adams, citing unnamed sources. The charges come after the FBI last November searched Adams' electronic devices, and in the wake of a slew of resignations by top city officials in recent weeks as multiple federal corruption charges entangled his administration. The spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, which brought the charges, declined to comment. Adams' lawyers did not immediately respond to a request for comment, except to send a transcript of his video statement. One of his lawyers has said that the mayor was cooperating with an investigation, but did not say that it was what it was about. Adams said the charges would not be surprising based on the leaks and rumors that he said were aimed at undermining his credibility. If he were forced out of office, public advocate Jumaane Williams would become mayor of the United States' largest city with a population of about 8.3 million. The case is likely to complicate any Adams bid for re-election in 25. Other Democratic politicians, including New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, plan to challenge Adams, once a key ally of Democratic President Joe Biden for the party's nomination. Very interesting, because the Comptroller is one of the people in line to assume the mayor's office if the governor steps in and removes Eric Adams. Before the news broke, U.S. Rep. AOC, also a Democrat, became the first member of Congress to urge him to step down. Look at what the machine state is doing and tell me you think it's real. Take a look at this story from Politico. September 26, 2024. Joe Biden cut ties with Eric Adams 2 years ago. President Joe Biden cut ties with the now indicted mayor 2 years ago. That's a subheader. They say he cut ties with them after their one-time ally was indicted on sweeping. President Joe Biden's aides kept their distance from New York Mayor Eric Adams on Thursday after their one-time ally was indicted on sweeping federal corruption charges. Outside of the one condolence call, Biden has not spoken to Adams in any substantive way in nearly 2 years, according to a pair of White House officials granted anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about private conversations. That rift stemmed from Adams' frequent criticism of the Biden administration's handling of the migrant influx into the nation's largest city and long predated the federal probe. Let me say it again, my friends. Eric Adams, if you follow the timeline, 2 years ago in 2022, called out the Biden administration's handling of the migrant influx. At that time, they launched an investigation and went after him, indicting him in 2024. They were working with him. He was an ally up until he said, I ain't playing this immigration game. Here's Wikipedia. Investigations into Eric Adams' administration. There have been several investigations into the Eric Adams administration since he became mayor of New York in 2022. Interesting. Chief among his investigations is the ongoing federal prosecution of Eric Adams, overseen by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, that resulted in the criminal indictment of Adams. This indictment charges Adams with 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, 1 count of wire fraud, 2 counts of soliciting campaign contributions from foreign nationals, and 1 count of soliciting and accepting a bribe. On October 8th, former Adams chief liaison to the Muslim community, Mohammed Bahi, who had resigned the day prior, was arrested and charged with witness tampering and destruction of evidence in connections with Adams' indictment and the investigation of illegal contributions made to Adams' mayoral campaign. Law enforcement interest in a wide swath of Adams City Hall led to a number of unscheduled departures, blah, blah, this we know. As the charges have mounted, a number of New York City area elected officials have called for him to resign. Adams calls the charges entirely false, based on lies, and has vowed to fight these charges. Adams and his defenders maintain the charges are retaliation for his opposing the Biden-Harris administration's handling of the migrant crisis. Interesting. On February 10th, 2025, the DOJ instructed federal prosecutors to drop the charges. On the 13th, the interim U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Danielle Renee Sassoon, resigned after refusing to drop the charges. Good. Kevin Driscoll, the acting head of the DOJ's criminal division, and John Keller, the acting head of the DOJ's public integrity section, also resigned in response to the instructions to drop the charges, as did 3 other prosecutors in the public integrity sector. Hagan Scotton, the assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York, who had been the lead prosecutor in the case against Adams, resigned as well. So let me stress for you again the timeline. In 2022, it was reported by Politico, not like we trust them all that much, that Eric Adams and Joe Biden cut ties over the handling of the migrant crisis. They had not spoken in nearly 2 years due to a rift stemming from Adams' criticism of the Biden administration. Around that same time, they launched criminal probes, and that's say it. We have the story right here. Headline, since 2022. So Eric Adams becomes mayor. Almost immediately says to Biden, you're not handling the migrant crisis properly, and we ain't playing that game. Almost immediately, Biden's DOJ launches a criminal investigation of Eric Adams. 2024, they actually indict him and demand he resign. He refuses. Trump wins, tells him we're going to drop these charges, work with us on immigration, and the response from the Democrat establishment in New York is to remove him from power. Corruption much? I do not see how any sane and rational person can take a look at these facts and then conclude that Democrats are the good guys in this. Because the timeline is clear. The American people did not like what was happening with immigration. Eric Adams did not want to be a pariah, sacrificial lamb for the Democrat deep state immigration policies. He actually decided he was going to reject this. Now, to be fair, I was very critical of Eric Adams at the time because I don't believe it. I think Eric Adams is a fair weather friend. I think Adams' decision to defy Joe Biden was largely based on him seeing the tides. He probably looked around and said, you ain't winning this one. And this was administrative civil war, as Eric Weinstein calls it. What that means is in a time of major administrative conflict, where the Democrats are trying to maintain a mass influx of illegal immigration for whatever reason maybe it's to reshape the electorate. Maybe it was to change economic numbers. Who knows? Eric Adams, who was supposed to be on their side, said, I'm jumping ship, dude. You guys lost this one, and it's obvious to us. I don't think he's a good dude. Eric Adams also allowed the Biden administration to do a whole lot as it pertained to illegal immigration. I think he was playing the fair weather game and realized the Democrats were on the losing side of things. He was a cop who got elected on moderate Democrat policies, and he probably thought, Trump's going to win, and I don't want to be on the side of the people that lost. And so here we are. Joe Biden's DOJ went after him. Donald Trump wins, and it's all coming down. Let me tell you about the Southern District of New York, my friends. First of all, we saw charges against Donald Trump in New York, in Manhattan. There's overlap. I know one's federal in one state, but there's overlap. These people know each other. You had in the charges against Trump, one of the top officials from the federal government quitting his job and then going to work in a New York state prosecutorial capacity. Very strange. Kind of obvious to everybody, right? This is an administrative civil war. They're trying to put their opponents in prison. They're trying to use the weight of the monopoly on violence the government holds to destroy people. They're doing it surreptitiously, and they're doing it in a way that seems plausible and acceptable. If they can put Eric Adams in prison, they don't need hot conflict. They can use the apparatus against him. But this is all escalation towards something much, much worse. And I'm hoping it's not the case. But I don't see any signs of de-escalation. I do potentially see signs of complete and utter destruction of the Democratic Party through Donald Trump's march to the sea on the deep state. And maybe that's what we need to see. Let me tell you about the Southern District of New York, my friends. Let's not keep that image up. We'll just have Eric Adams on the screen, and we don't need Karine Jean-Pierre. She's gone. The Southern District of New York was targeting James O'Keefe. Ashley Biden diary story. They were trying to put him in prison, and he was fighting it. That case has been completely dropped. There was a series of events, and for reasons that there is a conflict of interest with myself, let me just say this. There were a series of investigations launched by SDNY, which were obviously and overtly political and appeared to be directed by Garland himself and the DOJ under Joe Biden. Joe Biden had classified documents in his possession with the specific and explicit purpose of making money off them. He had a ghostwriter. He was talking to the ghostwriter and outright said, and this was recorded, that he kept confidential information he was not legally allowed to have as vice president in order to write a book so he could make money. Fascinating. Donald Trump, who was the president and ultimately decides what is or is not classified, had a bunch of boxes of daily briefings that were carried over from the White House to Mar-a-Lago after he left the presidency. And for that reason, they claimed he broke the law, was stealing confidential information, and then raided his home where his family sleeps. These people are abject evil. And they lost. And it's thanks to you. The hard work of the American people, those in the media and activist organizations who fought every day to expose the manipulations and the lies. And here we are. The fight is not over. Eric Adams is not a saint, nor is Trump. But I think it's patently obvious to anybody who's watching, this is a major move being played by Democrats. Perhaps it's not so much an empire striking back, but more so the remnants of the empire trying to form some kind of first order. I know. Sorry, guys. The Disney Star Wars stuff is absolute garbage. But though Donald Trump is crushing their resources and their means to wage lawfare, they're not stopping. Not until every last deep state shill criminal has been removed from power and prosecuted will this stop. So I'm glad to see it. You know, we're taking a look at the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, these people being forced to resign or quitting. They're jumping ship. Trump needs to fire the lot. Fire all of them. Now, what is the purpose of this? I want to show you this from Bahizi Tweets. Why did Democrats try so hard? Why did they try putting Eric Adams in prison? What about his defense of prosecuting illegal immigrations was an affront to them so much. I have this video. Democrat leader in Arizona admits live they want to use non-citizens to cheat in elections. Let me play the clip.
Please correct me if this is incorrect. You want non-citizens to be counted in terms of determining the representation for elected officials here at the Capitol, and by extension, I assume the U.S. Capitol as well. Is that incorrect?
Mr. Chair, I mean, it is absolutely correct.
Let the record reflect then that you just said it was correct that you want non-citizens to be counted for representation.
That is, Mr. Chair, that is in fact the current interpretation of that clause in the Constitution
Wrong.
that talks about counting the people in the United States. That is the
I
job of the U.S. Census.
I do appreciate an honest Democrat because you're saying the quiet part out loud.
Indeed they are.
And Mr.
To
Chair,
that point?
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt. So, yeah, Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution gives U.S. Congress the responsibility to conduct the census. The scope is defined as census counts every resident in the
Wrong.
United States.
It doesn't.
Do you believe that undocumented people are residents?
They're not residents.
I believe that undocumented people right now are being deported in mass numbers because they aren't legally supposed to be here. And so, no, I do not believe that our founders intended for non-citizens who we've had 10 to 20 million over the last 4 years enter illegally into this nation at the hands of the Biden regime, the Democrats.
Here we go. So
I do
they're-
not
they're-
believe that they should be counted in terms of determining representation here at the Arizona legislature or in any state legislature for that matter, or for the U.S. Congress.
Now, you heard what they said. She said that Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution says that we count any resident. That's just ludicrous. It's not the case. To prove that, I've pulled up for all of you, the actual Constitution. So we have here Article 1, Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4. And I'm going to read it for you. You know, I do find it absolutely fascinating, guys. Everybody always wants to read about the amendments to the Constitution, but very few people have actually read, like, the actual Constitution and how it basically sets the structure of government. Article 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Section 2. Now, in that video, she said that it gives the responsibility of Congress to conduct a census of all residents. First of all, it doesn't. Resident would be a legal term, meaning you have applied and you are here legally. The point here is Eric Adams was opposing this machine. Democrats want to expand congressional power and electoral votes. You know what's really funny about the National Popular Vote Coalition? There's an argument to be made that should the United States move to a national popular vote, Republicans would win every election from here on out. It's interesting that Republicans largely oppose it and Democrats are largely for it. Now, for obvious reasons, maybe it's not so obvious. Most people know I support the Electoral College because we do not want the major cities to determine who gets to be president. You know, you basically just cut out all the rural areas. The electoral system allows for at least a little bit of minority representation. Now, the argument is, if we go national popular vote, Democrats who tend to win the popular vote would win every election. If the 2024 election was held under the confines of the National Popular Vote Coalition, California would have been red. Because all of these blue states that believe, the way it would work is, whoever wins the popular vote, the state is obligated to vote for that person, like the popular federal vote. That would mean California this time around would have voted for Trump. Now, there's a question. The amount of electoral votes California has may be boosted. Some estimate it to 13 extra votes. Some say it's as low as 1 extra vote. Why? Because California counts in their census illegal immigrants, which they allow to remain in the country in violation of the law. They use these non-citizens as effectively indentured servants, not free peoples of the United States, in order to boost their congressional seats, their power in Congress, and their ability to elect presidents. It is a crime against the people of this country. It is unconstitutional, and I believe it must be stopped if this country is to survive. But will it? This is why they want to arrest Eric Adams. This is why they want more illegal immigrants, and they just said it in Arizona. That video is very important. She said Congress counts residents aren't undocumented residents. No, they're not. But you want to play this game? Here's Article 1, Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years and have been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Wait, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen? That's kind of worded strangely, but I digress. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to the numbers, which shall be determined by adding the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of Congress. Yada, yada. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative until such enumeration shall be made. They go on to that. This is really fascinating. At the time of the creation of the Constitution, they actually dictated the number of reps. New Hampshire would be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4. Interesting. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Let me stress that. They go on to mention representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, determined by adding the whole number of free persons, including those bound to a service of years, excluding Indians and 3/5 of all other persons. I'm just going to go ahead and say illegal immigrants are not free persons. If you want to make the determination that resident aliens who have the proper paperwork but are not citizens do count for representation, I actually would agree with that. Legal residents of this country, permanent residents who are not citizens and can't vote but are legally allowed to live here, immigrated, filed the paperwork, do need to be represented. They are allowed to work and live here. They don't vote. They don't join our armed services, but they are legal migrants and their interests have some weight. I'm not saying that representatives should cater only to legal immigrants, but they are here legally, and whoever is representing that district in which they live is going to have to hear what legal residents have to say. I'm fine with that. Illegal immigrants are not the same. Now, when it says free persons, perhaps the simple explanation is if you're not enslaved, I guess. They were drawing the distinction. My interpretation of that is you are a legally abiding citizen of this country, whether bound to service or otherwise. Now, it says free because they had slavery. But what it means to me is if you're here illegally, you could be arrested and deported under our laws at any moment. That does not mean you are free. Like if you were a criminal pending prosecution and going to jail, we would not call those free people. We would call them imprisoned. In fact, the 13th Amendment outright says indentured servitude nor slavery shall be permitted except in the instance of someone who is convicted of a crime. Actually, let's jump down. Is this just Article 1? How long is it going to take me to get to the 13th Amendment? There we go. Amendment 13. Let's get it. I love the 13th Amendment because it's horrible. There's the 12th. There we go. 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime wherever the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to that jurisdiction. Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. That is to say, in my opinion, people who are not in this country legally should not fall under the apportionment for Congress. If you are an American citizen accused of a crime, you have a right to be proven innocent. However, if you are not a citizen, we know you're not a citizen, then we just deport you. There is an interesting question in how we handle deportation. Do you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt someone is not a citizen? That's interesting. You know, if someone asks an individual, if an individual walks down the street and a cop's like, prove to me you're a citizen, you don't got to do anything. And I know a lot of people don't like that, AOC and others are advising illegal immigrants how to avoid ICE. My point is, We don't want to live in a world where you, a citizen, get unreasonably searched by someone and accused of being a non-citizen, and they arrest you for it and then deport you without charge or trial. That's kind of weird. However, that being said, if you are here illegally, and we know you're here illegally, we get a deportation order, you get deported. That person should not be counting towards the census. It's just, I don't know, reasonable. Perhaps the founding fathers didn't envision this world. When they said, Indians not taxed are excluded, they're basically saying people who live here who are not citizens. I believe the interpretation of Article 1, Section 2 already determines that if you are living here but not a citizen, you don't count. That was their express intention. Why would they say Indians not taxed, but then we would interpret it to be like if you're also literally anybody else who's here illegally? No, the founding fathers were outright like, if you're not a citizen. At the time, they didn't really have a deep concern over illegal immigrants because there were very few people and we didn't have, the populations were not so massive. Now that we have mass populations and major influxes of 10 to 20 million people over 4 years, now it matters. So my friends, I give you this, where we currently are. The Democrats want to imprison Donald Trump. They want to imprison Eric Adams for defying their agenda. Now that they've lost the power to actually do it, they'll settle with removing Eric Adams from power. Again, a fair weather friend, but, we'll take what we can get. Tom Homan is going to go in and deport the illegal immigrants who should not be here. Legal immigrants, we love you. We love the legal immigrants. Come here. America is open arms, the shining city on the hill, just for you. But you got to come here legally. And that's okay. And then I hear people say, but it's so hard. Too bad. What? You want to move to the greatest country in the world? We all know it. Where the standard of living is so much higher. It is comfortable. There's clean running water. Everything just kind of feels high quality, right? Not always. There's poor people. We get it. But you want to come here for free? It's just a ridiculous sentiment that just by virtue of existence, you are deserving of all that we and our ancestors have built. So why don't we maintain that? We're going to make it easier for immigration. Why? No, seriously, why? No, we should figure out an appropriate level of immigration. Maybe it's lower, maybe it's higher. Create a system by which people can legally apply. It exists. And then tell the people who are cheating, you can't stay. But I'll tell you, it's simple, my friends. Democrats are playing a game intentionally to gain power at the federal level. And that is wrong. And it must be stopped. The idea that California gets extra votes for the president is criminal. I'm not here for it. So, my friends, we will jump to your super chats. We don't got too many today, but we do have some, I believe we also have some Rumble rants. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member at Rumble. Become a member of Rumble Premium. You can go to timcastpremium.com, which will redirect you to Rumble. Use promo code TIM10. Sign up now. Not only will you get access to our Green Room Uncensored show, not so family friendly, our members-only call-in show, you'll also get access to Steven Crowder's Mug Club and all of the premium content everyone on Rumble is producing. It's pretty dang epic. Now, instead of just getting Timcast content, you get everybody's content in one place. That's the power of joining a network. We're super excited. Now, if you want to join our Discord server and be involved in community events, actually, we're planning the Culture War show Friday mornings. We're looking at venues where every Friday we will have a debate on a particular issue with an open seat just for you, the members of the Timcast Discord. So when we announce this Friday's debate is going to be with these individuals on this subject, you can submit your talking point, and then our team will choose. I think we're going to do it might be 5 to 8 individuals from our members, from our members of Discord who are present, because it's going to be members only. You want to watch the debate live? You got to be a member. And then we're going to bring you on stage, give you the stage to make your talking point and your debate on the issue. Maybe it's simple like taxation or abortion or war. Then you can sit down with us for a couple of minutes. We get a timer going. We let you make the argument. Someone's going to argue with you. You'll argue back. We will thank you, shake your hand, and you're on your way, and we bring the next person in. Think of it like Kill Tony meets Jubilee. We were trying to figure out a way, but it's members only, so we're not just like anybody can just show up. Well, if a random person shows up at the taping, because it's going to be pre-recorded for obvious reasons, because I think the only way we could actually do it is on Saturdays, but then we would air it on Fridays. So it'll be recorded live. I think that's what our plan is. And then it'll be released as live. But the plan would be that if someone showed up and said, I want to come in and sit down, we'd like members only. You could just sign up on the spot. We're trying to encourage people to join the community and be active and communicate with each other. So, the plan is to create a sphere of influence where people are debating and having these conversations. It will be epic. And we hope liberals join. We'd love to bring liberals up on stage to debate. And we're looking forward to having liberals in the hot seat on the Culture War debate show consistently with you guys as members. So become a member of the Timcast Discord. Let's grab some of your chats and rants. Smash the like button. Share the show. Let's go. Distro32 says the unelected governor is trying to remove the elected mayor of New York. Well, to be fair, she was unelected, but then she did run and win. Rosa Brand says civil war is exactly what the globalists want. Don't fall for it. I agree. They're trying as hard as they can because civil war is their fastest way to eliminate the Constitution. If a war breaks out and there's conflict and then there's a cessation of hostilities due for whatever reason, surrender or otherwise, the winning faction can then overwrite the Constitution because the fighting is over. That's terrifying. All right. Kane Abel says an ad interrupted your live video. I guess YouTube's like messing with your channel or something is messed up. Oh, yeah. I don't know. YouTube has a thing that pops up all the time that like it blocks everything saying run an ad, run an ad, run an ad. So I could have misclicked something. We'll see. All right. In the Woods 66 says, shout out to my friend who lost his family business to a fire. I know we don't like GoFundMe, but it's help Rose family rebuild their race shop. Sorry to hear. Yeah, YouTube doesn't know how to run ads on live. They just basically run it at random, and then people's experience is disrupted and desynchronized. So if you're in, say, like the Discord server, and you get an ad, other people are going to be watching the show, and you're not. It's the stupidest thing imaginable. YouTube, what are you thinking? All right. Heron Gaming News says, how long until Trump goes after Dominion and those who enacted unconstitutional lockdowns and mandates? I think people need closure for the pandemic. I think Trump is going after the gloat. The bloat, not the gloat. He's gloating, but he's going after the bloat because he's trying to stop the administrative state from being able to wage war against him. Otherwise, he won't be able to do anything. Jumping over to our friends on the old Rumble, we got some Rumble rants. Just because I'm free asks, question, I know a president can activate the National Guard, but what can be done within when a state is in a state of sedition? Can he have federal law enforce and arrest these rogue actors? Trump can invoke the Insurrection Act if a state has gone rogue. If they are in active insurrection, and he does have certain powers. Jordan Steele says, civil war. Can't call it day drinking if you don't start in the morning. Indeed. What have we here? Jason Swank says, Tim, when will Malice and Barr return to IRL for the conclusion of the bet? I don't know. Michael, we're going to have Malice and Roseanne Barr on because she owes him money. She owes him a lot of money. She said there wouldn't be an election and there'd be military tribunals. I think she owes him $2,000. Vincent says, let me know if you ever need help with a pool on any of your Timcast properties. You know why we're not going to do any pools? Because they are horrible to maintain. Oh, dude, it's so annoying. When I was in Miami at a pool, every other day it turned green. And I was like, and with the pool guy come out and he's like, we're going to do an acid wash. And they did. And it turned green again anyway. And I'm like, we were doing everything we're supposed to be doing. They were just like, look, when you get algae, you get algae. And it's like, we're in the jungle. What do you expect? And I'm like, well, nobody wants to swim in that. The animals loved it, however. It was pretty funny in the middle of the night. You see like all the animals, and I think they were frogs. It could be. No, maybe they weren't frogs. I don't know. Are there frogs? There are frogs down there, right? We got frogs up here all over the place. They're great. Corbin says, I live near Toronto and drove out to the airport yesterday. Canadians who are watching from the fence with me were saying it's karma for Trump trying to make us a state. Real shame. Jeez. I love it. Somebody tweeted, I think it was like the Krasensteins. Actually, yeah, I tweeted this morning. What did he say? Let me pull it up. Let's see. Oh yeah, he's got a bunch of funny stuff. Or was this yesterday? Where's it at? Okay, it was yesterday. Brian Krasenstein said, maybe DEI was the reason why we did not have so many plane crashes. And I said, Brian, calm yourself. I know you're excited, but we haven't conquered Canada yet. One day soon. All right, my friends. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Become a member of Rumble Premium. Use promo code TIM10 and you'll get access to the Timcast Uncensored Call-In Show, the Green Room Podcast, Infringed, and Game of Money, our feature-length documentaries. Go to rumble.com/TimPool. Watch those feature-length documentaries. We got Lauren Southern, we got Ben Stewart, and we're working on and we're in development for the next feature-length documentaries, which will be available to all Rumble Premium users. Plus, we're doing stuff with the boonies and skateboarding. We are going to make so much awesome content on Rumble Premium. I'm super excited for it. This has been tremendous. But of course, join our Discord community where you can hang out with 20,000 plus like-minded individuals where they make and launch their own shows. In fact, Roma Nation, a podcast that launched inside our Discord server and has now succeeded outside our Discord server, we brought them on Timcast IRL. We are going to be working to promote our Discord members so we can build spheres of influence, attention, and joining up with Rumble is a major component. Look at when we did the Green Room with Roma Nation, 124,000 views. They launched a podcast through the Timcast Discord server because there's an active community of people who are talking, who are sharing information, and they said, let's do a show on the server for all the people who are already here. It's an audience that's into these ideas and wants to debate. Now they got 124,000 views on Rumble, featured on Timcast IRL. This was always our goal, to build up people in the sphere of influence, to incubate and grow and dominate the culture. So thank you all so much for your support. Smash that like button. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We will be, we got more segments coming up. Next one will be at noon. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all then.